Take me through the process of getting into a franchise. I've looked at a lot of franchises. I think that's one of the first things I started looking at, like a buybizsell.com. Started looking there and like,
Sure.
oh, I'm going to start this restaurant. I'm going to own a dry cleaner, etc. How do you go about evaluating it? I think it's probably beneficial that you work there so you could kind of see the inner workings. But what does that look like? What do you need to do to be successful at that? What's kind of the steps?
I had a huge leg up being an employee for the corporate company, right? But evaluating a franchise, it's what kind of support are they going to provide? What kind of brand are they? But it comes down to you, actually. It's more on you and less on what brand it is or what company it is or what type of company it is, right? So I look at it as, are you ready to jump all in? Are you ready to go 100 hours a week, do whatever it takes 24/7? So that's what I was ready for. I was already doing it just for somebody else. Even at fresh out of college, I was working sometimes 50 hours a week, sometimes 100. The first few months when I owned the restaurant down there, I worked open to close, which was 8 a.m. to 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I still had to figure out how to be a bookkeeper. I didn't have a bookkeeper, so I had nothing. So it's like, I was my marketing guy. I was the sandwich maker. I worked every bar rush, selling sandwiches at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd get home and I still had to pay my bills and get back to work at 8 a.m. the next morning, right? So the biggest thing the best advice I can give to anybody wanting to be their own boss, whether it's own a franchise or not, owning a franchise isn't the easy way out. You still have to go all in and be all in for as long as it takes until you can actually have that, quote unquote freedom.
So you brought us something interesting, which I never thought of, but I think just hearing about the bookkeeper and just having to do your own books. When you start a franchise, you're there. You picture the person making the sandwich, cooking the bread, opening the shop, filling up the soda machines, whatever. But then you, as the business owner, had to figure out these other ancillary items to assist you so you could scale. So what was your first, I guess, outside hire, outside of the sandwich maker?
For sure. 3 to 4 weeks into me paying bills and not recording any transactions in QuickBooks or anything, because I didn't know how to use QuickBooks. I just paid bills when they came in, right? This was in 2011. I found a retired CPA who worked out of his house, and that's the guy I hired us part-time, basically 20 hours a week to do my books.
Nice.
And get everything right. He was super valuable. He, as a retired guy, he wasn't really doing it for the money. He was doing it to stay busy and, provide value to the community, right? So, his name was Jay. Yeah, he provided unbelievable value. And, it just, from there to, I never hired a marketing person, actually. I've always been my own marketer, but he was definitely the relief that I needed immediate.
How long did he stay on?
He was on for a few years before I ended up having to, hire someone full time and move on to something bigger. But
yeah, the first thing I had to give up was the bookkeeping. Chris knows me well enough, but I think I got behind on property financials by 3 or 4 months. So once again, I was paying bills. I was out there writing checks and I kept them all in files. And it's like, oh, wait, it's tax time and there's going to be financial reporting needed. Oh, my partners want to know this. Wait, what? That there's not some magic button? I thought we could just look in the bank account and reconcile there. Guys, it's good. We still have cash in the bank.
Hence why I was doing 1099s this week.
Yeah, good job, Chris. But since then we've moved on. So my first hire was somebody just like the job was like open mail, write checks, and record it. Just save me that so I can be better at what I should be doing, which is getting real estate.
I think I was doing Google Sheets. Like we didn't know what we were doing either.
No.
I tried learning QuickBooks, and to be honest, to this day, I've never really had to deal with it because I learned pretty quickly. I was like, there's too much going on.
I can barely log in. I have to go and get shown by my bookkeeper now, right? The other thing I had to, you have to have the courage to be the guy that can go all in on whatever the task is. bookkeeping is a hard one, but operations or, running the company in general, for me, I worked 100 hours a week a lot of times because I was willing to set the expectation, obviously develop your people, set the expectation, and then, be willing to hold that expectation no matter what.
Don't you think that makes you a better entrepreneur going through every process of the business? Doesn't mean you're going to stick with that process forever. It certainly does not mean you're the best at it. But I remember when I started, I was writing my own purchase agreements. I was writing my own operating agreements. I do not recommend either of those to anybody listening. I was sourcing my own deals. I was my own HR. I was my own cold caller, every single piece of the business. But then I started peeling those back. But now I know if something is missing or something's going awry, I'm able to step in there because I have that intuitive knowledge because I've been there and I've done that. I didn't just immediately say, oh, how do I make my life easier so I can work 40 hours a week?
Yeah, no doubt. That's the last thing on your mind at the beginning. You're not doing it, you don't get into it for that at the beginning, right? So it's like you have to work through the whole book, the whole process. That's what I was doing at the start, right? You just started creating systems. You run into something, you create a system for it, so the next time you don't have to work on it as much.
Yeah, that's smart.
So that's what I was doing, at 23 years old, because I had the high goals of owning a big company, starting and, building my own giant company, right? With lifestyle in mind. I wanted to have the lifestyle business, not necessarily real estate, but it's like, how can I get into something that's a lifestyle type company, where at 35 now, it's like, if I want to go home and have a snow day with the kids, I can.